What's going on, you guys? Welcome to The Wave, our new sports channel where we're going to discuss NBA, NFL, any sport. We talk about athletes, all that. I'm kind of going off the cuff a little bit, just for the first one. I just really want to get a video out, so let's go ahead and get started. So, as we see today, the NBA had officially ended its season. Not today, but last night, the final games of the season ran on. It was a thriller to the end, mostly in the Western Conference. The Eastern Conference was kind of locking itself up, a little bit earlier in the month. But the West was really going down to the wire. Like every single, from seeds 4 through 8, weren't locked in until the end of all regulation games on Sunday. So that just shows you how competitive the Western Conference really is. And yeah, let's go ahead and take a look. We'll start with the East, though, because while the East is kind of like a lock in terms of like we already got the matchups already predetermined. Maybe the 4 or 5 seeds were shifting around a little bit, but for the most part, we kind of knew who the contenders in the Eastern Conference were. I won't lie, I really thought Boston again was going to just kind of march their way through and just be dominant, and they were. They had 61 wins this season, but Cleveland came and really just turned the page on their whole organization, and they're proving to be one of the best young teams in the NBA. So it's going to be an exciting first round for them, whoever they play. And I think let's start with the play-in for the Eastern Conference. So we have a Bulls Heat matchup at 9 and 10, and we have a Magic Hawks matchup at 7 and 8. The Magic versus Hawks, I really think that's like down to the flip of a coin, honestly, in terms of playing in. Both those teams can beat each other. They have their weaknesses, they have their strengths. I would lean more towards going with Orlando just because they have a more like solidified team. Banchero, I really like his game. I think he has a lot of potential to be a lot better in the NBA. But they have a solid Franz Wagner and all that. Those guys are pretty good. They have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They have a lot of good veteran pieces there. They've been really turning the corner, and to get into the play-in at this time is like, I don't know, their team. I honestly expected a little bit more out of them. But it is what it is. 7th, 8th. I would take Orlando, kind of beating Atlanta. Just because Atlanta is with all the movement going on, and their whole mindset of their team is they're kind of getting like away from the Trae Young kind of thing. Like they're slowly but surely moving away from that. And when I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to be on the team. More so, like they're kind of moving away from him being the first option. I think they're tired of being in no man's land right now, where it's just like they are like winning 40 games, they're like going below 500 in the season, but. I think they're trying to turn their organization around. I think they're trying to find the answers. So I'm going to go with Orlando there. In terms of the Bulls Heat, those are two really, competitive teams. Obviously, as we know, it's going to come down to, it's really the flip of a coin. I can't really tell you for certain who's going to win. But I wouldn't sleep on Miami. I think Miami can definitely beat Chicago. Seeing as Miami had to play in a different division, Chicago's division, they're with Indiana, and I don't know. I can see Miami beating them. I could even see Miami beating the Hawks in a double elimination kind of thing. But it's just the Eastern Conference is so weak, man. Like you don't even really know who's gonna come out of that thing. So, I'll go with I'm taking Orlando and Miami coming out of the play-in. Just because I think they could beat these 3 teams right here. I honestly now let's take a look at the Western Conference plan first before we jump into any first round anything. We have the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies matching up in the winner go to the 7th seed. In all honesty, I think Golden State, like that loss to the Clippers was really, really big. Losing to the Clippers this season, they hadn't beat them all year. James Harden, while his percentages weren't as outstanding, to me, like, you weren't like, oh my god, not even his volume, his efficiency is up there. He had a great year. I think he had he's consistent in terms of how many stats he can get up. He's good at putting the ball in the basket. He's gonna pass. He's a good playmaker. Kawhi Leonard, when he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the NBA. So there's no doubting that. So the Clippers taking on the Warriors and beating them to take the 5th seed is like, it's kind of well deserved. Golden State had to win to even have an attempt to have a playoff spot, but it is what it is. I definitely think the Warriors could knock the Grizzlies out, hands down. The Grizzlies, there's just a lot of turmoil going on with that team. I'm not even going to be funny about the John Morant stuff and the guns and all that is just, I feel like the media might be blowing a little bit out of proportion. I think they have a decent squad, not deep enough for a NBA title. I don't think so. They could definitely make some noise in the playoffs, and I could honestly see them having a playoff spot. So I don't know. In the West, it's really, I think Sacramento will definitely take Dallas Mavericks, just with the whole trade, just the whole bad taste in the mouth that left with the Mavericks and stuff like that. I think they're dead in the water. Sacramento, they just got Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan. I mean, that is a repeat of a roster back in Chicago, but that team is definitely way more built to beat the Dallas Mavericks than I would say the Mavericks are to beat the Kings. Anthony Davis has been balling out, but will it be enough? The last time we saw AD on his own team, really kind of trying to take them to the postseason, was obviously in New Orleans, and they had some good runs, but they didn't reach the heights that that they were expecting. So I don't know. I would honestly take Sacramento coming out of the play-in, and so that would kind of leave us with the Oklahoma City versus Sacramento King. Sacramento Kings. I think the Grizzlies. Slow down. Sorry about that. So we have the Bulls, Heat, Magic, Hawks. I'm taking the Magic, and I'm taking the Heat out of that. I think the Magic and Heat will take that spot. I think the Southeast is just a better division overall. So I'm taking Orlando in the 7th spot, and I'm taking Miami in the 8th spot. In terms of the West, I'm taking Golden State in the 7th spot. I'm taking Grizzlies in the 8th spot. All right, let's talk about the first round. First round is going to be super, super, super crazy. In all honesty, let's start with the Eastern Conference. It really doesn't matter who comes out of this play-in a 7-game series. I'm taking Cleveland. Their depth is there. Donovan Mitchell, he's a great player. They got some good role pieces there. They got things firing all cylinders. They dropped a few games to the Pacers at the end of the season, but in all honesty, I don't think there's anything to really fret about losing those games. I think whoever comes out as the 8th seed, Cleveland will take them hands down. Same thing in Oklahoma City. Whoever's coming out of that 8th seed, Golden State or Memphis Grizzlies, whoever comes out of that conference, if you face Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and that Oklahoma City team, expect to be out of there by 5-6 games. That team is really good. They play really good basketball. Now let's take a look at the 2nd seed over in the East. It's going to be Boston versus whoever's coming out, either Orlando or Atlanta. My choice was Orlando. Orlando versus Boston is going to be good in terms of it's going to be competitive. We're going to see some new players make some groundbreaking new. All right, sorry about the interruption. I don't really remember exactly where I was, so I'll just keep going off the cuff. We'll find out wherever. It doesn't matter. Okay. So for Boston versus, my take is Orlando. It'll have some memorable games. I think it'll have some. I think, in my honest, humble first reaction opinion, I think it's gonna have some good insight there. It's gonna have some good matchups there. I think we'll see some good play from some Orlando players. I think Boston will handle that in 6 games maximum. I don't think they're gonna go past that. 6 if Orlando can hold their ground at home. But I think Boston has that one, no matter who comes out of that. Taking a look at the Rockets, versus the 7th seed, whoever. My choice would be the Golden State Warriors. I think they beat the Grizzlies out of that. In terms of, I think the Rockets is like one of the teams that like teams secretly want to face, not because they're not bad at all. Obviously, look at that record, 50 wins in this conference. Like, geez, you're not a bad team. I think what we'll really ultimately see is experience and just coaching. I think Steve Kerr, he's a double-digit NBA champion just as a person. So he knows winning. He knows the atmosphere of winning. He knows what it takes to win. Just on the coaching level, I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head who the coach is for the Rockets, but they're having a great season. They got a lot of young dudes on there. Some vets too, like Steven Adams and Fred VanVleet. He just, he's been having a good year as well. But I think, in all honesty, if my prediction is correct and Golden State comes out, I think Golden State can take them. I know the last game they did play against them, they dropped, where Houston just ran those boys out of the gym. But we'll see when the playoffs come around and, the rotations shorten and the game really slows down and we get to see some half-court offense. We're going to see some great plays from Jalen Green. We're going to see some great ball from the Houston Rockets. Steph Curry is literally on a tear the last 2 weeks. He's been like one of the hottest players in the NBA. The Warriors had that. So I think that one will come down to some key games, but I'll go with Golden State in about 6 or 7. I think their veteranness can take them over the first round. But this is definitely not going to be no easy feat. All right. Now jumping into the 3-6 series over in the East. This is where things get a little tricky for me. Things get a little tricky for me because we're looking at the Knicks versus the Pistons. And the Knicks, while they have a good record and they're a good team, there's just something about that Knicks team that is just, there's something lacking there. Like Josh Hart is good. He's a good player, but they could definitely look to upgrade that position and that kind of level of player. I don't know. We could take a look later to see who's going to be in the market or who they could trade for, even though they don't really have a lot of picks and stuff. But the Knicks have this weird identity problem where they're better than bad teams, but they can't ball with the great teams. And that's, it's time to play off. That's why they call it the playoffs. So this one is actually going to be one of my more controversial ones, but I think Cade Cunningham is going to use this as the series to show the NBA that he's a serious player. He's been, he came in as a first overall pick. His rookie season was good. He won Rookie of the Year. It wasn't anything too oh my God, nothing like Luka Doncic, but he has consistently gotten better. And what I like about Cade Cunningham is that, he came into the NBA. His first season was the tied for the longest losing streak all time in the NBA for any NBA franchise. So, he knows the losing side of being a pro, but now, his team has been winning. Isaiah Stewart, he's had a lot of controversy, always getting into altercations, just being more than basketball, but he's a solid anchor for that team. He brings the heart, he brings the fire to that team. So I don't know. I think Detroit, and this has some upset potential in my opinion. I think the Knicks, they made the right move in my opinion by getting Karl Anthony Towns, because why would I not upgrade Julius Randle to Karl Anthony Towns? You would be a fool to not do that, especially because Julius Randle was on the books for another he was on the books for another a year, and he had a player option and shoulder injury, and it just is no brainer. Karl Anthony Towns is all NBA for all NBA. That was a good trade in my opinion for both teams. I don't think anybody really lost anything doing that. I mean, obviously the Wolves, they lost their best big in the NBA, but they got Julius Randle. They got something to compensate for it. He's not bad. Julius Randle's not a bad player. He just sometimes makes some poor decisions, and he could be better. But this series has a lot of upset potential, just because it just gives me the Cleveland Cavs versus the New York Knicks, but when the Cavs were favorited or were a little bit better with Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell when they first got together, and the Knicks beat them and then beat them again. this feels like the Knicks are going to be on that side of, not going to be on the right side of fate this time. I think Detroit can really have a coming out party and really, stun the Knicks, because the Knicks, like, you look at Cleveland, you look at Boston, those teams are solidified. They smack opposing teams. The Knicks, like, even against the Nets, like, they won by like less than double digits. They're not dominant enough for my liking. So I'm gonna be controversial, but I'll take Detroit in 7. I think Detroit can beat New York. That has a lot of upset potential. All right, let's jump over West. In all honesty, this one gets a little bit hectic for me too, because let's take a look. We have the Lakers versus the Timberwolves. The Lakers been on a tear ever since they got Luka Doncic. They've been, their offense. I don't know this. I didn't do the comparison, but they've been on a heater. They've been beating teams. Granted, they've been beating teams that they have to beat. They know that they should be beating. They can't be losing to team like that in order to be a contender. You have LeBron for that last season of his, not even his prime, because I'm not even going to do that to the guy. The guy's still averaging over 20 points a game. So it's like, yeah, his prime, but like LeBron is still a good player. So he's still going to give you winning basketball no matter what. Their team is a little deep. Their only problem is that their big man position is not as fleshed out as I thought it was going to be. The Lakers, I don't know if they have like financial problems with it, maybe lack of picks, but I think a lot of teams, or maybe because the Brooklyn Nets extended him, but I think a lot of teams really, really wanted Nick Claxton, really wanted a good big. The Mark Williams thing didn't work out. Like, they just need a decent big, which they don't have that. They have Hashimura, who's a good forward, but in terms of a big that's gonna like snag rebounds, lock the paint down, like cover their other bigs, like be a presence. The Lakers don't have that. It's just, and it's actually funny, if you're looking at the matchups, the Timberwolves are the complete counter to the Lakers in terms of like where they have their advantages. They're good at creating perimeter shots with Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. Like, while people hate on him and say he's not offensively skilled, and he's gonna grab rebounds, he's gonna put the ball back in, he's gonna block shots, he's gonna do all the things that like show up on the stat sheet like blocks and rebounds, and not like pressures and just passing lane deflections and just his presence. So I don't know. I had a conversation with a few colleagues, and I agree. I think this is Rudy Gobert has never. I got to go do the research to be more definitive, but this could be a real opportunity for Rudy Gobert to really stamp his legacy in the postseason. He's going in the Hall of Fame. I know that might be controversial, or people might not like to hear it. I'm not the biggest Rudy Gobert fan myself, but he's going to the Hall of Fame. He won the Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. He's one of the best bigs we have in the NBA in terms of, he just has a different skill set. He might not be, like I said, offensively like juggernaut-ish, but he's a solid big. So I think he's going to be the real X factor. If he balls out, if he has a 15 and 12 or 16 and 12 series, he can give the Lakers some trouble. That being said, you can't sleep on Luka Doncic. He is just a maestro with basketball. He's really good, even though sometimes he has his little moments where he he doesn't keep his composure, or he's very emotional, or he just like gets too like riled up. He's still a great player, so I don't know. That one, I would honestly take the Lakers in 6. I think they could beat the Timberwolves. I think they have enough firepower to knock them off, and Rudy Gobert is going to really be the tipping point for that series. If he balls out, they can take it, but if he gets locked up or he gets put on the perimeter and the Lakers have a good shooting night, it's not going to look pretty for them. Anthony Edwards is still in the question, so you can't knock him off. He's having a great year. So let's see. All right, now we're down to the 4-5s, the last matchups of these series. Honestly, I'm going to go with, for the Indiana Pacers and the Bucks, I'm taking the Bucks. Pardon me. I meant to say I'm taking the Pacers. And I'm taking the Pacers because the Milwaukee Bucks just, even when Kevin Durant was back in the Eastern Conference, like the Bucks they won their title, and I'm not going to discredit winning a title. You beat all the teams in the league to get to that title. I'm not going to knock that. My only thing is that was in the season right after the bubble, which was the shortest off season I've ever seen. We saw many teams get hurt. And yeah, like the Bucks are beatable. And I think, in all honesty, I think going back to the Knicks a little bit, I think the Knicks fans really, really, really wanted to take those Bucks on because they know that they can match up with them, and they know that they can let Giannis get his little 30, take everybody out there with them. Damian Lillard's still a dog, but it's like they had enough firepower to match them, and I know they're a little bit weary about playing Detroit just because they're a little younger. They're gonna run up the floor more, and just that one's a little bit too much. Like they have a game plan for the Bucks. I don't know if they have a game plan for the Pistons. The matchups don't really work there. Cade Cunningham will, like, if he has to guard, if Brunson's guarding him or Hart, like he's gonna get 20 a night. So it's just tough. Jumping back into the Bucks Pacers, I'm still going with the Pacers. They got some good young pieces there. I'm not the biggest Pascal Siakam fan, but he can play. Like he's gonna have a game or two where he's gonna give you 20 plus, with good efficiency. So I don't know. Giannis is cool. I just think I don't know if this is his contract year or whatever, but that Bucks team seems like it's hit its course, and it's time to slowly start moving on to something else. So I'm going with Indiana in 6. I think they could take them on. I think they could beat them. And for the final series in this, we're going to go with the Nuggets Clippers. This one is tough for me, man. Tied in record. They both got some star power to them. James Harden, Kawhi Leonard for the Clippers, Jokic, and his cast. The only edge I'm really seeing is that Denver, they play great, but firing the coach is never, ever, ever a good sign. The play callers are not going to be there. To me, just firing your coach. Same thing with the Grizzlies. I feel like that just stabs you in your back because it's like, no matter how much you want to deny it, you're bringing in a new guy, a new regime. And the coach is, in basketball, the head coach is really, really, really important. I wouldn't say as important as in football, but in basketball, the head coach matters. The play calling matters. Like telling the roster lineups matters. And just jumping back into that Bucks Pacers series, that's one factor that I have over the Pacers. If I'm not mistaken, it's Rick Carlisle who's coaching the Pacers. He's a good coach. He was a good coach back in Dallas. I am not a big Doc Rivers fan. I'm not a hate train. I'm not just jumping on the hate train. I just always felt like his coaching style was never really up to the reputation of a coach that he was in the NBA. He's a great coach. He can run laps around anybody's team. But in the NBA compared to other NBA coaches, something was always wrong. Like I always felt like even with the one championship that he did win with Boston, I kind of felt like they took that and like tried to make it like 3, but they only won 1 title. And it's like, they've had many playoff upsets. They've lost. It's just Doc Rivers to me, like he's just never been. He just makes bad coaching decisions. So that's another factor why I took Indiana over Milwaukee. And just saying that to say that's why I'm gonna take the Clippers over the Nuggets. The Clippers are just on a tear. Like when Kawhi Leonard plays, he's great. That's hands down. But Jokic is amazing. He's one of the best bigs I've ever seen in terms of just touch, attention to detail, just knowing how the ball just feels like a yo-yo in his hand. Like everything is just crazy bad. He just knows how to play ball. He's just a good baller. He's a hooper. That's a hooper right there. So you can't count the Nuggets out like that. They're title winners, even though they played Miami, which was a way smaller team just in terms of stature alone. Like they made it out of that Eastern Conference. That just shows you the level of competition that's in the conference. With that being said, I'm still going to go with the Clippers. That one might even come down to 7. Kawhi Leonard, you can't sleep on him. James Harden, he's great. I don't want to say he's known for choking, but it's just like this season just seems like, what is there for him to really lose? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he came to the Clippers. The Paul George thing didn't work. Kawhi is never playing. Kawhi tore his ACL one series. Like it's just James Harden. I think this is going to be a good year for him. I can see him pushing past to the second round. So that's those are my picks. Those are my matchups. That's what I'm seeing. That's what my little hourglass is showing me. I think it's going to be one of the best playoff runs of ever. I think we're going to see some crazy upsets. We're going to see some good ball. We're going to see some crazy stat lines. We're going to see 50-point games. It's going to be insane. It's going to be insane, and I can't wait to be on the wave. I can't wait to just be immersed in it and just follow the whole series. But with that being said, I want to thank you guys for joining the wave. Thank you guys for coming in and tuning in. It's going to be an exciting postseason, and I'm going to give my reaction after every night if I can. Like, every game I'm going to try to catch and just give my insight and my opinion and what I see. It's going to be great, man. But thank you guys so much for joining the wave, man. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.